Hello and welcome back to the garage. This week I had a very fortunate occurrence. Both my check engine light and my change oil reminder came on. That might not sound like a fortunate occurrence, but it is for me. It also happens to be the middle of November, so it's that time to make sure your cars are ready for winter. So we're going to go over some winterizing stuff with your car. Number one, I did an oil change, which you're recommended to do every 3 to 5 months. It changes depending on vehicle and oil and filter. Just check your manuals. Always check the manual. So we did the oil change. I like Mobil 1. I just do. My vehicle takes 520. You'll see that on the oil cap. A lot of times it'll be listed on your vehicle itself what type of oil you want. If not, just go to the OBDII's and they'll tell you what you need, exactly how much and what type, and they'll even help you find a filter. Or you can go to the Wall World and nobody will help you, but you can get it for a little bit cheaper if you like cheap. You're going to want paper towels, you're going to want your oil, you want a filter, and you want your oil filter wrench, and you also want sockets and a ratchet. These are for the drain plug, which you'll see. These are for the oil filter, which you'll see. These are for obvious purposes. Another thing that I wanted to do was check my coolant level. The check engine light that came on threw a code of powertrain coolant issue. I could either, basically what that translated to, look it up, it's all in the manuals and you can find it on dealer sites and all that jazz. My particular check engine code said that the engine wasn't coming up to temperature in the allotted time for the control module. It took too long, basically. So I have my hydrometer, and what this will tell you is what freezing point you're protected to. This also affects the running temperature. Another possible issue could be that my thermostat's stuck open. So I'll show you how to check all that and how to top it off. Another thing I wanted to do was check my tires. I only did one that you'll see because I checked all 4 and they're all the same. They're at 35 psi. My recommended tire pressure is 40 psi, but once the snow starts to fall, I like to go a little bit lower. Just gives me more contact area. It does cause a little bit more of a wear pattern, and it does take a little bit more energy to move your car, but it's better to have more grip than to not, for obvious reasons. So the oil reminder, you're going to see there is a code, well, I shouldn't say a code, there is a combination of locks and levers that you have to do on your vehicle to reset that. Every car is different. Some you can just go into the settings and hit reset. Mine you can't. We'll talk about that. For the check engine light, I bought this handy dandy little thing. I love this. It was like $12 on Amazon. It's called Panlong OBDII diagnostic scanner for Android. So if you have an Android phone, which I do, you can buy this little guy. You can plug it directly into your OBDII port, which any vehicle, I think after 95, might be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it's after 95, will have. Standard, great. You just plug this in, it connects via Bluetooth, then you download the app, it's called Torque. Open the app, it'll connect, you tell it what vehicle it's looking for, it'll look up all of the stats, all of the codes that it needs on this vehicle. Then you can go in, you can actually set up different types of views. You know what, I'll just talk about that later. So yeah, let's get to it. I want to talk about the hydrometer. So this is a hydrometer. There are several key components. You've got the bulb, you compress this all the way and it'll fill up the fluid to about here. So then you can push it and bring it down to here. This is your target line. This tells you if you're level and plumb and all that. Let's flip it this way. Around here you've got a little gauge. Wherever that floats, that tells you the density of your fluid, which will tell you your protection, Fahrenheit, Celsius, yeah, and a freezing coolant tester. Accurately tests all permanent ethylene glycol. Ethylene glycol is the type of sugar alcohol that is used in antifreeze. So there you go. You can test it hot or cold, doesn't matter. I suggest cold, that way when you open the cap you don't burn everything. Hand, face, other hand, all your face. Alright, there you go.
First things first, we've got to get the Jeep off the ground. So you can do this a couple different ways. You can jack it up, put it on jack stands, or you can use drive-up ramps like I'm using. I wanted to get it far enough out of the way of the sidewalk the kids could walk, but not so far that I smashed into my Impala. Also, remember to set the park brake. When starting an oil change, I like to pull the oil fill cap and put it on the latch. That way, worst case scenario, if I forget to put the oil in, I'll just smash a cap and be reminded rather than blow up an engine. Alright, we've got our drip pan, we've got our sockets, we've got our paper towels. So you're gonna want to get under there and find your oil pan and the drain plug. There it is. Next, you want to put your drain pan underneath so that when it comes out, it is going to go farther, and then when it comes back, it'll not quite go as far. It's physics. Anyway, 13mm socket for mine, lefty-loosey, pop that thing loose, and because it's just oil, once you break it, it comes out pretty easily. I like to put some forward pressure on it so that I can feel when the threads have disengaged, and then you can just move out of the way quickly, that way you don't get a whole bunch of oil on yourself. Unless you forget to open the drain pan. Oil drain. Once it's done, put your plug back in. It's got a crush washer on it, so you don't have to tighten it a lot, just enough to hold it in. Now we're on to the oil filter. Some can be accessed from the top, some from the bottom. Mine's got a pan underneath it to allow the oil to flow in one direction, so it'll be from the top. Use your oil filter wrench, which opens in one direction and closes in the other. Make sure the closed direction is loosened. You can move it around. You can understand that. Break it loose. It's really hard to get that all the way off in these tight confines. So I just broke it loose enough, got my filter wrench out of the way, and then I can get my hands in there. And because it is an oil filter, once you get it loosened enough, oil will spill out of it. So make sure your drain pan is underneath wherever that's going to drip. It's pretty simple. An oil filter is going to be lubricated by the oil, so it's going to come out really easily once you get it broken free. So here's the filter in all its glory. When you pull this out, it has a little rubber seal around it. You want to make sure you've pulled that with it. Sometimes they do stick to the case. If you don't get that out, it will blow out when you start the engine for the first time. Alright, here's the new one. Get a little bit of your used oil and just lubricate the threads and the seal. There has been debate as to whether or not this is even necessary. I like to do it because it just takes a few extra seconds, but it may or may not help. I like to think that it helps. Yes, I am using used oil, but I clean my pan whenever I'm done changing it, so it's not filled with dust and crap from the world. So it should be fine. Reach down in there, get it aligned with the threads. Don't cross thread this. It'll be really bad if you do. They're pretty loose fit, so you should be able to feel when you've gotten it, and it slides on pretty easily. You just want to do hand tight. You don't need to get the wrench on there and crank it down until it crumbles. Just tight enough. That rubber seal will do an awful lot for it. So now on to the fill. Get your funnel, toss it in your fill neck, open your oil and pour it in. This engine, if you look at the specs, takes a little over 4 quarts of oil. This is a 5-quart jug. So I just fill it up until it feels about 1/5 the weight that it did before. It sounds complicated, but it's really not. Once you get to that point, you can pull the fill check stick, your dipstick, and you can see where it sits. If you're a little low, put a little more. If you're a little high, I guess figure out how to get some out. You might have to climb back under there and pull the drain plug just to get a little bit out. Up the dipstick, you can see where the hash marks are, where it's the safe zone. If it's below that, add a quart. If it's above that, you're a little high, maybe it'll burn it off, maybe you take it out, your call. So first dip, and you can see we're a little bit low still. So I'm going to add about another quart and we'll check it again. Second check, pull it out, and there it is. We are perfect. We're at the top. Now, every engine's a little bit different, even with the cars. Sometimes they like to run a pine low, some like to run a pine high. That's just something you're going to have to figure out for your vehicle. If you don't feel comfortable running it a little bit high, don't worry about it. Just put it up to the line, you should be safe. If it needs to burn some off, it will. Pull your funnel, put your cap back on. And newer vehicles actually tell you what oil is needed on the cap itself. Here we go, SAE5W20. So that's a helpful hint. Now we're ready to reset the oil check light. So you turn it on. For my vehicle, turn it on. You pump the accelerator 3 times within 10 seconds, and then you turn it off. And that resets it. Look in the manual, it'll have your reset. Again, some are as simple as just going into the settings and telling it to reset. Mine was not. Now it's time to check the radiator. Do not open when hot. That can explode and cause a lot of pain if you open that when it is at operating temperature. So just dip your hydrometer in there. Squeeze the bubble. Draw some up, and I didn't quite squeeze it enough, so I'm going to have to try again. So that top arrow, you want to put it so that it's between the 2 hash marks. That tells you that you're level. That makes sure that the second dial gives you a good read. So we're around -18 protection. That's a little low, a little high. I'd like it to be closer to -25. So we added a little bit more coolant in there just to bring that a bit lower. Check the brake fluid. This is your brake master cylinder. Just twist off the top, look on inside. Looks a little dirty, but it'll be okay. So got good level there. Next up is the power steering fluid. Only use approved power steering fluid. Check the manual. Again, always check your manual. Now this has a little dipstick on it, and you can see I'm right between the full and the add mark, so I'm not going to worry about it. So cap it back up, check tires. So I like to push it, check it, and then do it again. If I get the same reading, great. If I don't, that means I screwed up.
So that's it. The Jeep is winterized. We've got new oil, we've got updated coolant, we've checked all the fluids and the brakes, the power steering. I didn't do the windshield cleaner because my reservoir has a crack right on the bottom, so no matter how much I put in, it just leaks out the bottom. Makes sense, right? So I've pretty much just given up. There's a little bit, there's just enough. If I have to wash my windshield 2 times, then I can, but I don't put any more than that. I need to get a new one, I know. Anyway, we'll get around to it. So, go ahead and like the video, subscribe. We're now on Facebook. You can find our page at 2 Tony's Garage. That's 2 Tony's Garage. Yeah, follow us. We'll throw little updates of photos and stuff. We're going to try to get Harvey in here more. He and I are working out an arrangement to go and help him and do his things. It's hard. He has a lot going on, a lot more than I do. Yeah, I have an easy life, I know. So go ahead, like, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your family, share with your family's friends. Everybody, let's build it. Let's see what we get. If you have anything you'd like to see me do on a car, I really am open to suggestions. If you've never seen something done, rotating tires, we can do that. If the thermostat is stuck, then I'll go ahead and replace that. You know, stuff like that. Let me know. We do it all. We have done it all. We're classically trained to rock your socks off. Anyway, if you like it, great. If you don't, that's okay. You'll get over it. Have a good day. See you next time.
You bet your booty I am. This is what happens when you have friends with trucks. You get to help them load all their green waste into their trucks.